One is bad luck, two is coincidence, three is a pattern. When there is a known possibility that something catastrophic is going to happen, the damage of that event is, or at least it should be, somewhat controlled. I remember watching a documentary as a kid about how houses in Japan are engineered to survive massive earthquakes. They use specific mechanisms like massive rubber shock absorbers and base isolation systems that allow the building to stop being a rigid block of concrete and instead slide and move with the shifting soil. But watching that, I never stopped to asking the obvious question. How much did it actually cost the city or the citizens to implement that? How much money did it save compared to leave the city unprotected? And how long did it take to make that the standard? Well, I finally looked up the numbers. First, to implement these systems, it adds roughly 10 to 20% to the total construction cost of a building. For a massive high rise, that is tens of millions of dollars upfront. Second, how much does it save? The World Bank estimates that for every $1 invested in disaster resilient infrastructure, it saves $4 in future reconstruction. When the devastating 9.0 magnitude earthquake hit Japan in 2011, the shaking itself destroyed relatively few modern high rises. If Tokyo had been unprotected, the economy loss wouldn't have been in the billions, it would have been in the trillions. Oh god. Completely bankrupting the country. Third, how long did it take to become the standard? Decades. Japan began heavily regulating construction after the 1923 earthquake flattened Tokyo. But the ultra-strict standards we see today were only mandated by the 1981 Building Standard Act and heavily updated again in 2000. Before we look at the rest of the world, let's talk about the phenomenon itself and understand the economics behind it. Earthquake happens when tectonic plates, massive slabs of the earth crust, grind against each other. Friction builds up over decades, and when the rock finally snaps, it releases colossal amount of energy. Here is where the economics come in. The magnitude scale is logarithmic. A 7.0 magnitude earthquake doesn't just have slightly more energy than a 6.0. It releases 32 times more energy. Because of this, the economy damage scales exponentially. A small tremor breaks some windows. A tremor of just 1 point higher collapsed the entire city grid. Now that we know the massive cost of high-level preparation in Japan and the exponential destruction power of the phenomenon, we have to analyze the exact opposite scenario. What happens when a country doesn't have decades of preparation or trillions of dollars to expend? That is exactly what is happening in South America right now. Even though we are all taught in school that earthquakes happen on the limits of tectonic plates, there is a misconception that South America is somehow safe. It isn't. The entire western coast sits right where the Nazca plate is diving under the South American plate. Historically, countries like Chile and Peru are used to this. But right now, we are seeing massive destructive magnitudes hitting countries further north in the continent. South America isn't Japan. They don't have the same capital to invest, nor a government with the historical efficiency of Japan's infrastructural planning, which is a pity. Therefore, we can't expect the same level of preparation. But in every industry, there are three levels of solutions: the best in class, the intermediary, and the this will do. When a disaster hits a developing nation without best in class protection, the economy shocks are brutal. First, physical destruction. Infrastructure breaks down completely. 2. Business interruption, local trade stops. 3. Supply chain blockades, transport paths closes. And 4. Labor loss, injuries reduce human capital. While advanced nations absorb these costs using strong Federal Reserve and insurance, developed nations often see a permanent drop in GDP per person, coupled with skyrocketed inflation. Oh gosh. To give you a real perspective, on June 24, two massive earthquakes measuring 7.2 and 7.5 in magnitude struck Venezuela's northern coast. The United Nations Development Programme (UNDP) estimated the direct physical damage at $6.7 billion. That is equivalent to roughly 6% of Venezuela's entire GDP. The disaster affected 1.7 million structures and left 8.6 people exposed to the fallout. And just recently, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck Colombia, causing at least 126 deaths, injuring nearly 1,500 people, and damaged 5,000 homes. It's all over social media. The microeconomies of protecting your home. So if you live in a high-risk zone and the government isn't going to step in with a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure plan, what can you do? Let's talk about the intermediary and the budget-friendly investments you can make to protect your property without breaking the bank. Ask yourself right now, what type of construction is your house made of? Masonry or wood? And what region is it? Keep that in mind. The intermediary investment estimated $2,000 to $6,000. If you have some budget to secure your home's structure, focus on partial reinforcements. Here are 5 examples. Cross bracing, crucetas and cis. Adding metal diagonal profiles to critical walls to prevent the house from folding laterally. Foundation anchoring. Using steel plates and expansion bolts to fix wooden or masonry pillars directly to your concrete floor. Reinforcing chimneys and parapets. I probably said this wrong. Wrapping them in steel mesh or concrete bands. These collapse first and destroy whatever is beneath them. 4. Flexible utility connections. Installing flexible hoses for gas and water pipes to prevent torsion ruptures. 5. Heavy furniture fixation. Bolting tall bookshelves and water heaters directly to structural walls using heavy-duty studs. The basic investments, under $500. This will do. If you are on a tight budget, you can still drastically improve your house survival rate. Structural. Apply carbon fiber mesh to reinforce weak masonry walls and add basic steel cornice brackets to hold the roof to the wall. Internal protection. Apply shatter-resistant safety films over your glass windows, usually under $50 a roll. Use half-duty metal straps to secure your refrigerator. Safety systems. Install an automatic gas shutoff valve, $50 to $100. That triggers during tremors, preventing the fires that usually destroy homes after the shaking stops. Goddamn. Chapter 4. The free investment of behavior. Now let's talk about the ultimate budget hack. Behavioral tips during an earthquake cost 0, and they mathematically improve your life expectation. When the ground starts shaking, remember the golden rule. Drop, cover, and hold on. Here's what to do. Drop down to your hands and knees immediately. Cover your head and neck with your arms and crawl under a sturdy desk or table. Hold on to that table until the shaking stops. If you are in the bed, stay there and cover your head with a pillow. If you're driving, pull over safely and stay inside your car. If you're outside, Move to an open area away from power lines, buildings, and trees. Here is what not to do. Do not run outside during the shaking. Most injuries happen when people try to move. Do not stand in the doorways. They do not protect you from falling debris and are not stronger than the rest of the house. Do not use elevators during or right after the quake. Do not light matches or candles if the power goes out due to the high risk of gas leak.